All right. Hello. Welcome, everybody, to twitch.tv/LotraStream, a chat with Sev. So basically, we got done just recently here with War of Three Peaks, getting that released. You can find out more on Lotra.com. And we've been doing a few patches, and we have a little bit of work yet to do. And of course, work goes ahead here for our work for the rest of the year. But we had an opportunity here. Sev had an opportunity. Severlin, our executive producer, had an opportunity to really carve out an hour of time to just sort of get with you all on Twitch, open it up for some questions, get some questions answered, and just kind of hang out and have a little fun here following what's been quite a few weeks here of some pretty active work. So say hello to Twitch chat here, executive producer Severlin.
I'm sort of looking at Twitch chat out of the corner of my eyes, so if I'm my eyes are drifting away from the camera, you know why. I'm looking over at Twitch chat and then back. So, what's going on?
So we're just going to kind of get to questions here, and I do have a little thing here to talk about question topics. I guess I'm going to start with the softest of the softballs, and no pun intended there, with a Patriots joke. Are they going to make the playoffs?
I wouldn't underestimate Bill Belichick because the thing is that he usually gets better as the year goes on. And since they didn't have a preseason and their practices have been messed up and they lost their quarterback for a couple weeks there, we're seeing them like inch up in effectiveness. And I don't know. Brady's looking good, except we don't talk about 2 games ago, but like Brady's looking good, except that the Pats are slowly creeping up. So, but I mean, I think this is fantastic because I think it's just interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway,
yeah, exactly. I just wanted to. Someone opened up the opportunity, and I figured I'd
questions come early.
Yes,
what are you thinking about the Pats? They're losing record for the first time. Let's hit them hard. I see how this is going to go.
Okay, so let's actually start a little bit with class roles and a little bit of class work. Exogenesis wants to know, are our character creation class roles going to be updated to kind of match the current class revamps and in many ways the game's meta? We have, descriptions on class roles in our CareGen, and I think this person is largely saying maybe those need to be updated.
Sure. I mean, for Lotro, it's the Endgame is such a, it requires a lot of knowledge, and I think that we have to acknowledge that some of the class roles have changed over time, especially as we've been doing the class balance trees. So we probably should go back and revisit those when our systems team is doing class balance. I'm sure that the top of their list is not the character creation descriptions. It's something that can easily be overlooked, but yes, we really should be updating those, especially as class balance is an ongoing thing. I don't think it'll ever be done. So we want to make sure that the players have an understanding that we will be going through class balance ongoing. And every time we do a level increase, and every time we create new set bonuses, there's a chance for class balance meta to change. And so that we will always want to be doing class balance. It'll be an ongoing process, and it is an ongoing process.
All right, let me go to one of our other big topics that often comes up on Lotra Stream. This one is from Fidu Evernight, basically asking about PvMP. What are we going to do about, say, lag issues in the Yetin Moors? And the second question, anything going to seriously change with PvMP in Lotro? We do have some PvMP work underway. The question, I guess, by Fidu Evernight is, how serious a change are we actually planning to do with PvMP here on Lotro in the near future, and anything we can do about lag there?
Okay, well, lag is an ongoing issue that we need to be better about. We've been looking at it, we've been making some adjustments, but a lot of our infrastructure adjustments of this year have caused kind of halo in it. So we definitely want to look into that. The weight of the characters makes a difference, and also the weight of the world. Lotro is a big world, and we're adding new regions and all the time. And while that's great, everyone adds a little chance of having our controller servers, which we call our master servers, get heavier and heavier. So we have to be careful on that and watch it. So we've had some lag and latency issues this year that we want to look at. Some of it is Halo from a lot of the infrastructure work that we've done. So we definitely want to look into that. I know that players were concerned about server stability for a long time, and this has been a challenging year for that for a number of reasons. I mean, everybody who's working from home, I'm sure, understands that everything is just a little bit harder. And we had a situation where our tech ops really did a good job of moving us home. But because of the infrastructure work that we've been doing, there's sort of a halo that we're still going through to make a smoother play experience.
All right, sounds good. On a question, I can actually answer this one. Finesse D Fox, when is Brawler coming back up? We're going to be talking about whether we're doing a second PvMP preview. I know QA's been discussing that, so that's a possibility, and that's a possibility, maybe even something. I don't know what we want to commit to before Black Friday here, because obviously we have a lot on our plate and things like that. But it'll be happening, I think, in the near future there. So,
did I answer the PvMP question, by the way? I talked a little bit.
Yeah, I believe so. We talked a little bit about the lag issues there, and how much, I guess, do we expect the PvMP environment to get some love in the short term here and medium term?
PvMP overall will get balance changes after each patch. We'd like to see how the meta shakes out before we do the balance changes. And a lot of our bigger updates have level increases, so we expect that the players will be leveling before they go back into PvMP. I think that larger scale PvMP, meaning like big changes in terms of rewards and such, is a more difficult situation, because PvP is a different beast, because you lose 50% of the time, even if it's perfectly balanced. So we want to be very careful that we don't just casually go in there and make things worse for players. We want to balance things, but if we change the experience, because players are then encouraged to find ways of exploiting it, it's just hard. So I don't know that we want to make wholesale changes without really biting into the system. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think, we have seen Vastin do some work on PvMP. Just in the last couple of days, he's been on the forums talking to some of the PvMP community, and we really do appreciate that feedback. I think we had a pretty excellent Brawler here. Hopefully you agree. And part of what we're doing here is to give people like Vastin opportunity to better make changes short term to keep on top of PvMP combat. Maybe in a way that's been a little more challenging in the past. I mean, that's the idea anyway, right? So.
Yeah.
All right. I've actually got a couple of questions here. I'm going to take this one, though, because I'm going to put you on the spot because you answered a question, and this is why sometimes you have to be careful answering questions that are suggestions. What is going on with River Hobbits?
We definitely want to do so. River Hobbits are something that we definitely want to do, and it's still on the radar. But with this coming year, what will probably happen is we'll see, Gundabad in the fall at some point, and then Brawler is going to be coming out this year, and so River Hobbits will probably follow those two things. Doing a new class is going to be huge, right? It's just a lot of work. There's a lot of animation work and that type of thing. So that's what we're going to be focusing on this year, and getting Gundabad as good as it can be as a full expansion. And then we'll see about River Hobbits. I want to see them because I like them, but
yeah. All right, Bell Navarre, I will get to your question on legendary items. Surely we'll get to that. But just for the interest of making sure I ask questions while I'm coming across them, let's ask a little bit about Mount. Well, you want to take that one? Okay, go ahead.
No. So I think in terms of the year I'm currently planning for. So this year to me is 2021. not 2020. So I apologize. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, let's just take that question then, as long as I'm typing in the chat. What's up with legendary items, and what are we going to do with them?
Uh, okay. So here's what we're looking at. We did a full pass on legendary items internally and started dissecting the code, and we're still looking at what we want to do. Our first pass, we were not particularly happy with, and I don't think that it would have done well for the players, mostly because there's a lot of technical issues about how the UI works and where the data is stored with legendary items that greatly complicated things. So we definitely want to do, we definitely want a couple of things with legendary items. First, they're too complicated leveling up. They just are. Having learning a whole system and then getting to 100 and going through imbuement is, so we want to make the leveling experience better, and then we want the players to be able to get new and cool things at the top end with legendary items, and we're not sure. We're still working on how we're going to do that, and I'm afraid that if I start talking about like the various options that we're discussing, the players will latch onto that, right? Because I would as a player, so I don't want to go too much into it. But those are our two goals: make the leveling process better and make sure that the players can pursue new things up at the top end. However, we're going to do that because we want when the players level to have stuff to look forward to for legendary items. I know that we had talked about having that before. That's my bad. We talked about it without looking at the code behind it, and it's just a big deal in terms of programming.
Yep. All right. Sounds good. Back to Layriana's earlier question. I wanted to get to this one because I know that there's at least one bit of news that we can talk a little bit about related to it. And Layriana asks, what are our thoughts about mounted combat? Basically, are we going to do any work related to mounted combat? And I know that because we do have, some legendary server work, we do have some thoughts related to what we're going to have people do, right?
So mounted combat is sort of a legacy system that is in Rohan. We're not planning on doing more mounted combat content. Some of the work that we can do is I think that for mounted combat, we want to make sure that the players don't have to do it if they don't want to, but if they do, they can do it. I'd like to see the inertia changed a little bit so that it's easier to turn when you get really skilled at it. I think it's still a little clunky as you're like riding through and turning because your character gets more and more skill at it, and so I would like to dial that down a little bit in order to facilitate it a better experience once you buy into it. Does that make sense? But I don't think that we're going to introduce new mounted combat content that would be specific to that.
No, and as a matter of fact, I know that Maid of Lions and perhaps some other people have done some work related to how that might be an option. There will be kind of like an option to perhaps avoid some of the mounted combat that people have expressed criticism about when that hits legendary and that sort of thing.
It's an interesting system because like some people like it and some people don't like it, but it's definitely outside the core loop of gameplay because it changes how you play so much. So we want to be careful that the players don't feel that they have to get away from like that core gameplay experience. But the people who like it still have a chance to go back and, play with it.
Okay. Will we ever see character transfers from old servers back, or will they be lost forever? Asking for a friend.
Well, yeah, so this has been a really challenging year. As you know, with there's been a number of server issues, and not only have we been working from home, but as we are updating our infrastructure and I don't have a giant, massive tech ops team like some game companies. Right in the middle of that, we had this giant storm of things that happened, including some malicious agents that were causing havoc with our servers. And our tech ops people basically had to stop what they were doing and redefine our entire architecture to protect against that, right in the middle of upgrading to a new system. And because of that, we're still behind, and we still haven't moved the dark worlds, the older worlds, to that new system. That's planned on happening either this week or next week. I don't want to say, because there still could be issues with it, and there are a lot of worlds to be moved over. We don't want to just start opening up transfer on
Yeah.
the world casually. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say that
So,
if we do get to that this week or next week, it would be to start to get to that this week or next week. I wouldn't want to promise any kind of indication that that might be wrapped up, in a day or two. So you stay tuned for an announcement from us in terms of
yeah.
when you might be able to transfer characters. But we do have plans to do that work.
Yeah, I'm trying to be honest about like when the work is supposed to be done.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that we're coming towards the holidays, and people have just come off of you know, X-Pack level work for both franchises, and the tech ops people are coming from uh, infrastructure changes and improvements that, quite frankly, have caused a lot of havoc. And Halo, part of it is our fault because there were some stuff, that happened that makes it difficult to move from one data system to the other. Part of it was malicious actors causing problems with our servers in the middle of it, which certainly didn't help things. And part of it is that working from home just makes every bit of communication just a little bit harder. And I don't want to use that as an overall excuse, but I need to acknowledge, like, the teams have been doing a good job of overcoming that and getting content out.
Yeah. Yeah. I All right, so let's actually talk. I want to take part of your question, Dark Respite, because I think it's more encompassing than that. You're asking specifically about how it will relate to War of Three Peaks, but let's talk Gundabad.
Yeah.
The players know that Gundabad, is something that we've announced. What's the current plan for Gundabad?
So fall for Gundabad, I don't think that we want to have it follow up so closely to War of Three Peaks. And we want to have more time because we want Brawler ready for it, either in it or to be released separately before it so that people can play it. We have some exciting stuff for Gundabad, and I think that having a new class this year will be super exciting for the players. And I know that the content team is pumped because this is a big deal and a big lore point, and so we want to make enough content leading up to it that will do it justice. Also, we'll probably be doing different kinds of content this year as well in order to bring players sort of all levels into it, including maybe a zone that isn't max level, and that'll be one of the few times that we've done that. So, but yeah, Gundabad, all roads are looking at Gundabad. We already have people looking into it, and our lore people are already talking about and excited about the maps, and so there's a lot happening there.
Cool. All right. Original Hun, I think that's how it says, is saying, any word about task carryalls? I'm not 100% clear as to what your concern is with task carryalls. I think there's been a request to allow you to sell from them, and I don't know what our ability to sell in the future from a carryall bag in Lotro is. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah. So when items go into carryalls, they're more of a list than an actual item, and then you take them back out and you turn to items. So uh, there's significant engineering work to do that. The other problem is I don't know that we want to, because I don't know that if you're talking about specifically selling and crafting, I think we can craft directly from them, but like
Yeah.
doing certain tasks directly from them, like selling, opens up potential exploits
Yeah.
that when we looked at it, that I don't know that I'm comfortable promising that, because we may never do it if we find that it will be difficult for us to maintain the integrity of the data there.
Yeah. Right now, our task carryalls are good to hold items, task items, but less so if you like to sell them.
But
So
I
just
mean,
something to consider while considering whether a task item is right for you, right? A
yeah,
task carryall is
but
right for you.
I mean, so I have a question on the question. I think they're asking for. I don't think we have task carryalls. I think they're saying, will there be a new carryall that's a task
No, no, no.
carryall?
We do. Yeah, I've got one. So Oh, will they be for sale? Is that all you want to know? Is when they're going to be for sale? Well, that should be in the near future. I can't. I can't promise among which of our holiday sales it might fall, but I have heard rumblings, so I would think pretty soon, maybe. All right, Lotro on the new consoles? Question mark.
On console.
Yeah.
We don't have anything to announce about Lotro in console.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Quite frankly, there would be a lot. Like, I would love to see it, but there is a lot of UI work to get it to work on console. Just our inventory alone would have to be completely redesigned to work on console. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let us. I'm trying to actually go through some of the chat here. I may have to slow down chat here if you guys are continue to be as wonderfully active as you are. And by the way, I appreciate the chat. You guys have been doing a great job, guys and gals.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat. Any thoughts on how the tournament of the twins went? I thought it was pretty fun and good. The players seemed to respond to it. It definitely had a spike at the beginning, and by the end, there were only hardcore people on it. Would we do it again? Maybe. I think that now that the tech is there, it would be kind of cool. I liked it. I would like to find ways of getting more people involved, but PvP is something that you don't want to encourage people who don't like it to go into because they just won't have a fun time. But the people who do like it, yeah, I could see us doing it again, especially since the technology is in place. I think we'd want to add some kind of twist, and I'm not sure off the top of my head what that would be, but I think it was a fun thing that we could definitely have a repeat of.
While we're talking about the Tournament of the Twins and some of our more, event-based worlds, things like that, what's up with that Eye of Sauron server that we referenced in the producer's letter?
We definitely want to do the Eye of Sauron server, but we're questioning, now that we've had a chance to kind of look at it, is do we want to have a legendary server that plays that differently? And that's the question that we're talking about. Maybe. I definitely want to follow up with a legendary server that maybe have a different set of rules that's fun for the players. The Eye of Sauron is one such example of something that we could do. We're trying to figure out, though, would it be fun for the players?
All right. Let's see. Sev mentioned Gundabad in the fall. Did he misspeak, or is that an update from the original announcement of the spring release that was in the producer's letter? Yes, that is an update. That is an update on the release date for Gundabad.
Yeah, because War of Three Peaks was so a lot has happened since the producer's letter. I didn't even know we would be working from home when I wrote the producer's letter, to be honest. So I don't think that following up War of Three Peaks in only 5-6 months with something that big would actually be compelling for the players. Yeah, I know that you want as much content as possible, but I think we can do some other things before we get to Gundabad.
What about the long-term strategy for Legendary Worlds? What are we going to do when we get closer to the live worlds?
I think that what will happen is when the Legendary World catches up to the live world, there'll be some decisions to make of whether we want to move people over to the live worlds at that time or keep those as a closed environment. Probably we're going to be seeing how many players. It's probably going to be defined by the population on the server. If the server is very, very low population and it's not a good use of our hardware, then we may have to make a hard decision to have them move on to one of the normal servers. And if it's really popular, then we'll stay, So that's kind of in the hands of the players, right? Mm-hmm. Like if they're all on it and they're having a great environment and there's tons of them, then yeah, we'll leave it. And then eventually we'll have other legendary servers that we want to have as well. So that, especially now that there's a whole bunch of new people, they may be looking for an opportunity to start fresh as well.
Yeah. And to piggyback onto that, to answer Lexicon's question, we have discussed the level 100 cap, how it relates to imbuement of legendary items, things like that. We have some ongoing discussions related to that particular question for you. Let's talk, just to briefly go back to a class balance, because we do have a handful of questions from some of our more passionate Guardian players who have been frequenting Lotra Stream in recent weeks to encourage us to work on the Guardian, and in general also work on endgame tank balance. So do we have any plans in that regard?
Sure. Right now, once we have some class balance, as I said, is something that we want to do kind of a little bit for as many patches as possible. So I was kind of watching as questions came back. So yes, we want to make sure that the tank balance at the end game stays competitive for all tanks, so that you don't feel obligated to bring one specific kind of tank. I think that it's better than it was, but still has some work. Yes, we would like to have all of the trees have a place, but that's a significant amount of work. Um, like let's get our classes all having a place, and then we'll worry about the specific trees. But yes, that's our long-term goal, to have different trees have different classes, and so class balance will be an ongoing thing. I think it's out of scope to talk about the specifics of like what trees are we going to hit up, and because players will then be like, well, what are you planning on doing, and what are you going to, what changes you're going to make in the trees, because they're really invested in their characters and love that we're doing it. But yeah, like there's a lot of specifics there that is probably out of the scope, but our goal is the tank specs should all have a place, and that all the trees should be useful or have a place as well. I know we're far from that. I know that we won't get to that tomorrow because it's an ongoing process, but the idea is that every time we do a little bit of class balance, we'll get closer and closer and closer until over time it'll be better.
All right. Well, I see some more questions about Brawler. Do we want to give any hints about what's up, like what the Brawler is maybe going to kind of lean toward or anything like that, or when it's going to be released?
I mean, the cool thing about Tolkien is that there are indications in the books about certain Valar that are really into punching people in the head, right? So I think that the Brawler is an opportunity to sort of scratch that itch, and but I don't want to go into it because this is what will happen. We're going to come up with cool mechanics for the Brawler that will be different than other classes, and then when we kind of put them on the test server and try them out, they'll either work or they won't. And then if I start talking about what those balance things are, the players will latch onto it. And then when we actually play test it internally, if it's not really working and we have to take another direction, the players will forever be comparing Brawler to what could have been. I would do the same thing as a player. That isn't a criticism, but that's why we kind of don't want to talk about like the specifics of that, so that we keep our options open in terms of that when we work on that. But I think a lot of things that will sell the Brawler not only will be the sort of systems, but also we're looking forward to doing like really satisfying animations and particle effects and even sound for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Will Creepside ever see a new class? Will we ever want to do a new class for PvMP? There's definitely nothing on our agenda for that. I mean, it's a cool want. I'm sure there's a lot of cool things we could do, but I just haven't heard of anything about that in the short-term or medium-term schedule.
Yeah. So for PvMP, would we do a new class right now? Probably not. Would we do it in the future if we tried to work PvMP into something like the challenge server? Maybe. But that would be a big thing that wouldn't happen in 2021. It's not on our plans for doing that.
What about 4K?
4K support, something we need to do. We're trying to get more engineering resources, and we'll look at that when that happens. 4K is Yeah, I have a 4K monitor, so I get that too. I actually have to downgrade it for a number of games, so I'm right there with you in wanting more 4K support. It turns out that the issues with fonts and such, scaling is actually something that our game doesn't do currently, and it's a hard thing to get it to scale properly. Uh,
Yeah.
there are font issues there.
What about the race change? I know that we had our QA team just today emailing a couple of thoughts about the race change item, and we are really close to getting that able to be released in the Lotro store. So, should have news here in the near future on that one.
Yeah, so hopefully that we the final really low level bugs that we found on that have been ironed out. So we'll be looking to regress it and see where we are on it after that. Hopefully we won't find new things. What else? Back-end work will be down to allow more precise control over effects being made, displayed. So the back-end work that we had was more data-driven, and the issues that we had were more related to people trying to spam us to death with DDoS than it was any issue with, like no nothing is happening internally. The problem is when they do that, the players can't actually get to our servers even if they're protected. But the backend work is structural, excuse me, and isn't something that you'll be able to see about buffs and debuffs. Plus, the issue with buffs and debuffs are probably client side as we're looking into it. So when you turn on buffs and debuffs and see a slowdown, it's client side. So we need to look into that.
Let me ask a question. I know this comes up in chat, so let's make sure that they get acknowledged here in chat. This one's from Dunhaid, asking about Evernight rather, having particularly difficult server issues in recent months. They've been running into some server problems.
Right. When we did the infrastructure work, everybody suffered, and the malicious people that were, causing DDoS issues were also having a problem. But in specific in EverQuest, the initial lag was
not EverQuest, Evernight. Sorry. Yeah.
The Evernight was one of our indexes was off. That was causing chat problems. That was causing lag issues. Now that is fixed, and Evernight should be having, the lag on Evernight is based on player numbers, because there's just a lot more players on that right now. And so we're looking into ways of making that better. One of the things we did do is we moved the master of 2 of our servers over to new hardware, which seemed to help. So that was good, but I think that, like I said, there's still work to be done.
I guess as long as we're talking about, some more difficult questions, Pastor Jay wants to know a little about our communication, having no notice on release dates, particularly related to War of Three Peaks, I suspect, in that question. Basically just not getting enough information in advance in recent weeks, Pastor Jay asks. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's my fault. We basically have a rule that we don't talk about specifics about what's in packages or what's going to be on a major update until we have an official page for it. And that was always our sort of policy, right? Don't start going and talking about it, because if we do, and there's no official page to look for information, then the players get confused, and if they actually have questions, they don't have a specific source to go into. So essentially, since we didn't have a page, when we talked about it, we were like, well, we're not going to release official information and then not have any place to go. So what happened this year is we changed where our store was. So the place for the, not our normal store, but just the specific page for our larger updates. Since the back end for that changed, we weren't ready with that new page because of certain delays related around, it's just been a tough year. And we were waiting on that page to be officially available before we released information. So there wasn't a day that went by that we weren't like, oh, we'd love to release more information, but we don't have an official place to put it. Now, looking back, knowing what I know now, would I have had us to create like a forum account page as a keepsake, not a keepsake, but a placeholder so that we could get information out sooner? Yeah, absolutely. We should have done that. Now that I know sort of when the official back end was going to be available, and that it would get delayed because of the increased communication costs of working from home, I would have made a different choice. But at the time, we were trying to follow policy about like, don't release information until the players have some place to look for it. So that was sort of my fault in terms of why that information came late. It's just because in the back end there were infrastructure, and the official page wasn't going to be ready until that stuff got done.
Yeah. We did talk about LI work, so we don't need to redo that one. Why is it getting dark at 4:30? Sorry, this is my own question. I had to turn on the lamp here just in the middle of our chat because it got dark in this room. It's 4:30 in the afternoon and it's dark in my living room. What's going on here, people?
You live in the north. I don't know
Yep.
why this comes as a shock to you every year.
I know.
I honestly don't know when the next new housing area is going to come. We don't want to flood with too many housing areas, but we want to make sure that the players get enough housing areas. So I'm not sure when the next one's going to be. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, too, we have Lido of Tesh asking about new musical instruments. I haven't heard of anything in that regard after the bassoon and the fiddle, in recent years. Have you heard anything about?
No, but I think one of the things is like what new instrument are you looking for? Because we love all of the musical content that the players provide for themselves and the big music festivals that they do. And so if we can support that, that would be great. And I'm sure that our music and sound people that like doing that sort of things are dying to have an excuse to work with musicians to come up with a new instrument. They would love that.
All right. This is a pretty good question here from Elarissa. What will come between now and Gundabad for Endgame? We did mention that Gundabad is now we're considering into fall of 2021. That's a long time to go. So what are we going to do for our Endgame folks between now and then?
So we have another Endgame update that will happen, and they're gonna make fun of me for lore, but I can't. It has a complicated name, and it's on the road to Gundabad, and I'm just spacing on the name about it. So we'll have that, and the other thing that we're going to try to do is we're going to try to have this a new kind of content where the players will be able to have level agnostic lost tales, where they'll play through various storyline tales as sort of a side release as well. So we're trying new content. One of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to increase the pacing, like how often do we give them content, and and more content, and for how can we offer more free content. And that's a big question that we're asking ourselves. Like, we want to put out more free content. We want more lore content. We want to tell some stories, some side stories about the world. There's a lot of small stories that the writers and the lore folk want to tell. And this is a good opportunity to do it in a sort of so that all players can look at it and do that. Sorry, I'm talking and reading Twitch chat, and I probably shouldn't do that because my coherence trailed off a little bit.
I think it's like Azanulzibar or something like that is the name. I saw Tiber type something in chat, but unfortunately I missed it. So, but yeah.
Have a cool landscape area that isn't that is in the middle someplace, but that will have missions that anyone can play. So our endgame players will be able to do that. And then we can have these kind of story thread content that will be released so that the players will have more lore stuff to do. And then we're going to have another landscape that will probably be closer to endgame. And then Gundabad itself.
All right. Let's ask this question here. I think maybe I know the answer, but what are our plans for the Lua API in terms of ongoing and future support?
That is a tough question. We right now you can do some add-ons. We have to do probably the 4K work before we can dedicate a UI person to doing Lua. And the other thing we have to be very careful for is those APIs can be abused, and we already have lag issues, and we have seen evidence in the past of API use actually contributing to lag because programs can just click buttons faster than players. So I think that I don't foresee us having a giant revamp of Lua in the coming year, in 2021. I would like to revisit it later to give the players more capability, as long as we can make sure that it filters out spam. And what I mean by spam is overuse that would cause server issues.
Yeah.
But like 4K first, and then we need to have some real UI revamps. Like there's some things about our quest.
Like the person who's just saying, please change the yellow on yellow deed text. Sure. Yes.
Yeah, the yellow one, the deed text. The other thing is that for new players who come in, when they open the map and the map is tan and then the little rings are all kind of yellow tan, and you have to actually click on and off to see them. And then our default colors may not be vibrant enough for you to really, there's some UI stuff that we have slated that I'd like to get in 2021 if we can hire up the people to do it.
Yeah. I'm not ignoring asking the question, Demian, about when is level 100 going to be on Anor and Ithil or Legendary Worlds. It's just that we have a tentative date right now, but it's a little bit too tentative to want to announce today. But it is something that we have been thinking about as to when we'll be doing our next big content release on the Legendary Worlds. And we just need to hold back that actual, when for now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. What about making VIP players by every mini expansion? So what is our kind of long-term plans here for VIP and sort of expansions?
Sure. So one of the things we tried to do is, I love that our VIP players are so supportive, and we tried to sweeten the VIP pot by giving them a lot of different services just recently. There's things that you can buy from the vendor that give you access to store and stuff that normal players don't get. One of our there are two goals ongoing that I don't think that I communicated well enough, and the players are kind of asking themselves about the War of Three Peaks. One is we want to release content more frequently. We found as they look that the players respond well to content, and they don't respond well to content droughts. They kind of our data shows that content drought the players kind of lose interest. So we want to have more content. And also, when we do a big update, a giant expansion like Mordor or Minas Morgul, the content team kicks ass, but it's not tremendously big. And I like doing that, and I like that they overachieve on it, but I also don't like that they're working like nights and weekends. Like there's a difference between, hey, we have to catch up a little bit and a little bit of that, and hey, I have to work nights and weekends for like 5 weeks in a row. Like they're dedicated, but so we're trying to find a content, our plan was, if we have content releases, X packs that are smaller, but honestly, we charge less. I think we were upfront about that. Hey, we're going to charge less for the content, but we're going to not have as much of it. Then we can have more content during the year. More releases is our plan for next year, and we can sort of keep a schedule that isn't as hard on and doesn't add as much stress on the worker, the people, the awesome devs, because I don't want to do that. So there's a number of reasons to do smaller expansions, more content. The other thing we found is that there's a number of players that just don't get through the whole expansion. our obviously our core dedicated people do, but like so our as we're looking, the reason we're trying a smaller expansion and charging less for it is so that we can redistribute some people into doing other types of content, so we have more of it. We have a more realistic schedule, although we're also hiring in order to. We have hired and we're hiring a bigger team in order to solve that problem. Um, and and that's what you saw with the War of Three Peaks. Can we have that one big beat that will bring players in and still have content as well? And that was our experiment. I think that overall the players responded well to it being smaller. I think that there were other things though that muddied the water in terms of player opinion on it, that I think that we could improve.
All right, let me rapid fire a couple of questions at you. One of which I'm really going to put you on the spot, but I'm going to ask you because of I know your engineering background, and I'm going
Okay.
to ask you if you can remember what Zerka's change was related to the work that we did on Evernight. Remember that we did work on Evernight to correct a load screen issue and then brought that to the other worlds. Do you remember
Yeah.
more specifics about what we actually did there? Someone's basically saying, "What did you do to Evernight that suddenly made it so much better?" Basically. Do you
Uh,
remember what that work was? I
this year, you mean?
Yeah, just fairly recently.
I think that
Don't I don't know.
no, I think wasn't that I believe that that was the change we made to fix the back end data indexes.
Yeah, I
So
think that's right. Yeah.
yeah, so the problem is that when you're talking about any kind of SQL backend, if data isn't indexed, then the data search is much longer than if you have it indexed. And then when we did Evernight, one of the indexes didn't get copied over, so everything was slow when you looked into that, and it related to chat and it related to I think friends list and quests. And then when we indexed that data, everything was faster, and so that did a large improvement. The other thing we did is we moved some of the master servers over to new hardware or different hardware so that they could keep up. And as we looked into it, but no, I agree that we still have some work to do when looking at various kinds of lag. So I don't want people to think that we're all like, "Hey, we fixed everything." I think it's better. I think that we've done a lot of work, but I think there's still some stuff to do.
Yiki asks real quickly about the ability to gift in the future through the Lotro market. That is something we're actively hoping to bring to the Lotro market in the future. I know that the e-commerce team has been looking into that, and that's something they would like to do in the future if we can get that out, and that's the current plan. So.
Okay, one of the interesting things about the VIP is that I know that for a lot of people, the VIP gave access to a lot of content, and obviously it still will. Even if we have more free content, we still want to have like content that's good for the VIPs. We did add a lot of new perks to the VIPs, and I think that one of the things that we need to do is maybe have an updated website that actually tells people all of the various VIP related perks. The other hard thing, and I'll be completely honest with you about our VIP, is that somewhere in the past, before my time, someone added a whole bunch of VIP perks that turn on when you VIP, but don't turn off when you don't VIP. So there are a lot of perks that you can kind of stop being VIP and still get. And so people don't count those for our VIP. And that's probably a bad thing, but I don't really like taking stuff away from the players. So I don't really want to address that if I don't have to. But that's also an issue is that there's a whole bunch of perks that people who VIP previously have access to that they probably shouldn't. But hopefully we won't have to do that because we did add new VIP perks. So once we come up with the whole page of VIP perks and look at like all of the things that VIP people are getting, um, uh, we can get a better idea of what happens if the for the content updates that aren't expansion level to make sure that the VIP do get enough value from that program because, I want the VIP people to be happy. I want them to be filled with joy that they're both helping support the company and that like their VIP is giving them a real good play experience.
All right, here's a question. Lotro free quests. What's our future plans for that? Do we have any future plans for that?
Are we talking about
Yeah, basically the question from Pookie Mojo is, did we get the response we were looking for with Lotro free quests? Yes. And would we do it again?
Oh, well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, I would love to say that there was some brilliant marketing plan about making the content free, but actually, we wanted to do it because we knew that people were stuck at home, right? It was like supposed to be this nice thing. And, like, yeah, we got a tremendous amount of people that appreciated it and came out to support us and loved it. And so that we didn't want to pull the rug out from under them and doing that. Maybe we'll revisit it in the future. I don't know. Like, I don't that was done because of all of our current situation of maybe not having as much outside time as we would like. And so I'm glad that that was great for people, and I'm glad that people tried our games for it. But I don't really think that that was ever the point of it. Now, would we bring it back? Yeah, I think that if there was, if in the future we would consider it. I would like to bring more free content. So I would love to have like a free content bit in some of our future updates as well, where players can just come back and try it for free. But we have to balance that with how much value, as people have rightly pointed out, how much value we're giving to the VIPs.
All right.
Dwarf Champ animations, we would love to do more animation passes. Animation is expensive, and our animators kick ass, but there are far and few between. So if we do look at it, I think also that I think the Dwarven Champ animations, I think the Champ animations in general have, I think our team was saying that there may be timing issues with that. So I'd have to look at that, but I can't remember if that was specifically what they were talking about. I think that talking about Guardian Shield use rank is so specific that it's probably out of scope of an hour. And I don't want to tie the hands of our systems people. I apologize.
I know we've talked about level crunch during previous interviews, about some MMOs that are doing level squishes. Would we ever do that for Lotro?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we've already talked about that previously a couple of times, I think.
Brown Bear cosmetic pet. Hopefully what'll probably happening is I'm bringing that up because the artists are probably watching this and they'll get all excited about it, and maybe it'll happen and maybe it won't, but like I just wanted to point out someone asked for it.
Any word on current Lotro market purchase issues? There are a few remaining issues that we're working to resolve, typically involving specific payment methods or processors. So we're hoping to make some of that progress in the near future. There may be some geographic regions that are going to have issues making purchases in the new Lotro market. Specifically, I know we have a few people from Ukraine that are in our chat here that are running into a couple of questions. So get in touch with account support. They should be able to work through that with you, and that's through help.standingstonegames.com. What about a kinship revamp? We've kind of hinted about our plans to do that, right? We want to do that.
Okay, so payment methods. Right now, a lot of our awesome European players are waiting for PaySafeCard, and that's something that we're working on. So hopefully we'll see that sooner rather than later. I know that there was an issue. People using VPN might trigger our fraud alerts. So be aware if you are doing that, you may have to call customer support. So that's a thing. Back to the question you just asked. Sorry.
What about kinship work in the future?
Oh yeah, we definitely want to do kinship work. In fact, we're already talking about it.
Yep. What about alt, making the game more, quote, alt friendly?
we
That's a good
have been.
question.
So there are a number of things that have to do with alts. One is LIs, one are virtues. What we try to do for virtues is that getting your 5 major virtues should be reasonable, and then getting all of your other ones is something that like you'll have to play the game a lot for. The LIs, we have added LIs to various areas, and you can now get scrolls for at Endgame and at more areas than just one. That is an ongoing thing that we'll be looking at to help and fix, because I know that people will certainly be looking to question that when Brawler comes out. And I think that the LI, just understanding the LI system is challenging for people coming back in, so that we do want to approach how low level LIs work. But because the scope of that changed dramatically when we actually looked at the tech and how the data was stored behind the scenes. I don't have a specific answers on that like I wanted to have by the end of the year, which I know is annoying because I said that we were going to do it, and I feel bad about that, but I'm just trying to be brutally honest with you. So yeah, those are the stuff. I think right now XP can be gotten if you're willing to wander off the path and do that. So it's more of a question of virtues and LIs, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to look up a question. Someone wants to know when our tier 5 of Bloody Threshold is. I'm pretty sure that's real soon here, isn't it? When we're going to be doing tier 5 for the Bloody Threshold? Yeah, I'm going to have to look that one up. I'm pretty sure I saw that in the near future here, though. So.
Yeah, our current schedule is hoping to try to squeeze in 6 mans in a raid before Gundabad. I'm not making any promises, but our goal is to have more group content, and so you don't have to wait all the way until that happens.
Instances. Oh, yeah, okay, here we go. One of our own employees is in chat and just sent it to me. Ultimately, that should be in one of our upcoming patches here in the real near future. The exact date is not something I'd want to announce today, but it should be in our next patch of significance. That should be just fine. So it's currently set for 28.2, and that's the plan for the tier 5 of the Bloody Threshold.
Yeah. All right.
We've got about 3 minutes left here before we're kind of going to wrap things up. So now's a great time to ask any kind of outstanding questions here. And I did just want to thank you, for being here, Sev. So.
Sure. For communication follow-up, right now I can't promise exact dates while we are all working from home. There's certain challenges here that we have to accept, and certain communications that are just harder when we can't all gather together in the office. So if you're asking for when will the exact dates be, I really can't promise that right now. Let's see. I'm scrolling fast.
I know it is.
Yeah. All right. What else do you want to address in the 1 minute I have left?
I don't know. What should we do? Trait points? Right now, players can earn more trait points than they can spend. Do we ever want them to be able to spend all their trait points? Right now, they earn more than they can spend because it gives you several options of which to earn those trait points from. So you're not required to do a certain piece of content at a certain, level band or whatever.
macOS client is a bigger discussion, but we would like to hopefully get that back up and running. We're kind of eyeing wine and seeing how that goes. Fellowship maneuvers we love. I don't know that they're useful right now. I would love to revisit, but I have no news on that.
New hobbies. We've talked about our interest in doing new hobbies, but we've not really brought forth any solid plans to do that kind of thing.
I honestly talked about like the new hobby discussion and spilled the team would kill me.
I know. All right. Well, hey, you know what? Let's wrap it up here. I really do want to thank everyone in Twitch chat. You have all been fantastic here tonight. I really want to thank you for providing just excellent questions to fill an hour full of hopefully Q&A that's of value to you. So thank you very much, Sev, for being with us here today. And maybe we'll be doing something like this here in the future. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. I'm sorry that there were questions I couldn't get to. Some of these are like really specific now, though. Like, I don't know if I have enough time. All right.
Welcome to
Thanks,
my noon
everybody.
hour. Yeah, have fun, everyone. Bye bye.